The condition that is central to the enduring trauma that many men suffer is what I refer to as the father gap. It's essentially when a father is heavy-handed and goes over the top and crushes a boy's spirit, or worse, when a father is missing in action and goes out of a boy's life.
The father gap is real. The father gap is real. It's a real presence in my life. I don't know any men who don't wish they had a better relationship with their father. I just don't know any.
I had a lot of powerful men in my life that, weren't necessarily my father, but just I learned a lot from examples. Not from what they told me, by watching their actions. And I take the same approach. I mean, if someone asks me a question, I'll definitely be there for them. But I think, some people learn by watching, other people learn from listening, and other people learn from reading.
I had a huge father gap. When I talk to friends about it, and there's so many guys that can relate to this, I don't think I've met a man that hasn't had some sort of father wound. But I know countless men that don't do anything about it. I can safely say the wound is healed.
I knew my father growing up, but I was raised by my grandmother. And so because of that, I understand the pain that a lot of youngsters is going through, being raised by people other than their parents. And it's painful, especially going to school, when you have friends, when it's time for open house or whatever, their mothers and fathers is coming and yours is not around. When I was 17 years old, I was accused of robbery murder in Venice, California. And July of '87, I was convicted of first-degree robbery murder and sent to prison for a term of 32 years to life in prison. And the whole time I was in prison, I was writing various law groups, trying to find some help because I knew I was innocent and I was sitting in there for a crime that I didn't commit. So in 2003, I heard from the California Innocent Project, and they said they would help me with my case. And they reopened my case, found all the witnesses, was able to give me an evidentiary hearing. I was called back to court, and subsequently after that, I was released and apologized to by the judge. When I got out, I checked myself into Cal State. I took some gang intervention courses. I started doing gang intervention. I went back to the community that I grew up in. I started helping out in the community, trying to help the youth. Because, for me, it was like I was a youngster when I went to jail and I was involved in gangs and drugs and all that sort of thing. But while I was in jail, everything came to me that the way I was living was wrong. So I promised myself that when I did get out, I was going to help every youngster I could. And that's what I've been doing.
What did you learn about masculinity from your dad?
Sorry, Dad, not much. I didn't really learn that much, honestly. It was he had a very Catholic, turn the other cheek, beat bullies to the punch kind of thing. I got my sense of humor out of that, which has been good for me, but, I didn't really learn much in the way of that.
My father is an Al-Anon. He grew up in an alcoholic home. He brought a lot of that junk to our family, and it was presented to us as normal behavior, things like raging, irrational. But at a certain point, I think he realized how alienated I was from him, how afraid I was of him, and he began to take me places. We went fishing together, we went to the movies. I saw him laugh, I saw him cry, and I saw finally a man who was experiencing a broader life than I ever realized possible. So he left me a gift of what it's like to love someone enough to spend time with them.
When my father was nearing death, I asked him, I said, Dad, is there anything that you would like me to have that, I could remember you by? And he was very frail at that point, and he pushed himself up and he walked into the other room and he came back with a paper bag. And he opened that bag and he took out autographed baseballs, autographed by Ty Cobb and Bob Feller. and other eminent baseball players of the time. And he looked at each one, and he looked at me, and a tear was in his eye, and he said, "Isn't that something?" He said, "My father collected all of these for me." And he said, "I want you to have these."